This is the scene that instantly hooked me to Steins Gate. It doesn't lure you in with the promise of time travel from the start. It lures you in with an incredibly interesting event, leading you to ask more and more questions and wonder, what the fuck is going on? And this doesn't just happen once or twice, it is done multiple times, and every time it happens, it is always incredibly interesting and shocking. See, in this show, time travel is not just used as a way for our characters to move through time. It is also used to confuse us, the audience, and the characters, leading them to question their own sanity and to push them to do things. This is a show that does time travel right.
"宇宙には始まりはあるが終わりはない。無限。星にもまた始まりがあるが、自らの力を持って滅びゆく。有限。英知を持つ者こそ最も愚かであることは歴史からも読み取れる。これは抗える者たちに対する神からの最後通告と言えよう。
A prologue of the beginning and the end. This is the title for the first episode of Steins Gate. And in that episode, it sets up a few crucial elements of the story. Firstly, besides introducing our main character, Okabe, and some side characters, we learn that Okabe is familiar with the John Teacher theory, as evidenced by his interaction with Dr. Nakabichi. However, right after that scene, we get our first introduction to
라보맨 넘버 004
who later becomes an integral part of the story. And straight off the bat, something feels off here. Kurisu says that Okabe tried talking to her about 15 minutes ago, but we as the viewers know that nothing like that was shown or mentioned until Kurisu herself says that. And by this point in the anime, we aren't even past 5 minutes in, and these scenes are already raising a lot of questions. Who is Kurisu? Why did she say that Okabe tried talking to her when he didn't? Why does it seem like Okabe might have an obsession with John Teacher? And is Okabe crazy?
誰と話してるんですか？
問題ない。ここはなんとか切りな。
あれ？電源が。
Even after Okabe runs off, he still wonders to himself why Kurisu said that to him, which proves to the viewers that he did not talk to her or had any interactions with her off screen. Then something strange starts happening with Okabe's phone, and then Okabe hears screams that oddly sound like his own. And as he goes to investigate it, he discovers Kurisu's dead body. Okabe runs outside seemingly in shock and explains to Mayuri that he just saw a corpse. Everything here feels dreamlike and nothing is quite totally making sense, and every scene that we get raises more and more questions. And as if things can't get even crazier, Okabe then tries to send a text to Daru explaining what just happened, but when he goes to send it, something weird happens. He, along with Okabe, are all left scrambling for answers. And if it wasn't obvious before, it damn sure is obvious now that something weird is going on. The people on the crosswalk, sidewalks, and street all disappear, and he is left wandering alone until he runs into Mayuri again, who herself appears back out of nowhere, and the only person who seems to remember anything is Okabe. As people start to randomly appear again, Okabe asks her what just happened, and she has no idea what he's talking about. This part really feels dreamlike, especially due to the background. It gives a very lonely, empty, and eerie feeling, something kind of similar to the backrooms. We, like Okabe, have not the slightest inclination to what could be going on, and all this happened within the first 10 minutes of the show, and as an opening to a show, it sets up so much foreshadowing and shows us what to expect without spoon feeding us. And at the end of the first episode, when Okabe and Daru are in the elevator scene, we see that the message Okabe sent to him that day was actually sent a week ago. And when the elevator opens up, we see Kurisu is still alive. But how could that be? How could someone we saw was dead minutes earlier suddenly be alive? You see, Steins Gate is extremely good at making you constantly question yourself and wonder how this could be possible. If we were inside someone's screen, would we ever be able to know? Is one of the first things Daru says as we meet him in the latter half of the first episode. Besides it being ironic because we are watching them, I think Okabe is starting to have a similar feeling to the quote mentioned. He does not remember things that apparently happened. People are saying that you experienced things that you never did. It's like you're being gaslit over and over and over again. And these little changes and inconsistencies are going to lead me into my next topic. The butterfly effect in John Titor. The butterfly effect, according to Google, is the phenomenon whereby a minute localized change in a complex system can have large effects elsewhere. For a simple example, if you went out to get coffee at your local coffee shop and fell in love with someone, had you not gone there, you may have never seen that person, and you would have never fallen in love. Steins Gate itself has many examples of the butterfly effect that we can explore in a later video. If you're still confused, I'll link a video in the description down below, and it explains the butterfly effect very well and gives some better examples. All you basically need to know is that any small change, such as stepping on a butterfly, could have caused a massive change in the future. In the year 2000, someone going online by the name John Titor claimed to be an American military time traveler, coming from the year 2036, to get a 1975 IBM 5100 computer. I am a time traveler from the year 2036. I am on my way home after getting an IBM 5100 computer from the year 1975. My time machine is a stationary mass temporal displacement unit manufactured by General Electric. The unit is powered by two spin dual positive singularities that produce a standard offset Tipler sinusoid. He then posts pictures of the contraption, of which, by the way, to this day, have not been disproven. There are even rewards for people who could disprove it, and no one has. Not only did he have some pictures, but he also would answer people's questions at the time. And even though some of them weren't fully explained or very vague, he gave some predictions to the future, and some of which have actually come true. He said that election votes would get hacked. And if you do remember, back in 2020, this did actually happen during the Donald Trump versus Joe Biden presidential run. He even said the Olympics would be cancelled, and which it was in 2020, but no other predictions have come true. Well, at least not yet, but there could be an actual reason why some of the other things he said haven't or will never happen, and that is due to something he himself stated. A world line divergence. Think about a world line divergence as a universe that may look like our own, have the same exact people in it, but could be smaller changes, such as maybe your personality is different compared to you right now, even stating that your world line is about 2.5 different from mine. This could even go into the Mandela effect. And that's a whole can of beans I don't even want to open right now. During this time, a lot of people on the internet were believing him, and that's just due to how he was online, stating that my goal is not to be believed. Well, what is his goal, you might ask then? Well, let's look at his motives. Now, remember, John Teacher claims that he was in the military, and that his unit was responsible for getting important objects from the past to help them recover from the war, and the IBM 5100 was one of the items needed, saying that an EMP destroyed all their computers, including any remaining IBM machines. Even offered to take people back to the year 2036 with the IBM machine. That was just a basic look into the John Teacher conspiracy, and mostly everything you need to know moving forward with this video. If you're interested in this specific topic, there are a plethora of videos on the internet you could find that go very in depth with this. Now, I needed to explain all that because these theories later become a very important part of Steins Gate. And let's move on to our next topic, and that is CERN.
Program Phase Number 1, Construction and Utilization of Large Hadron Collider. Program Phase Number 2, Practical Application and Tuning of Lifter.
Daru, what are these lifter things about?
You remember all that buzz about ionicrafts? Same principle, but with a less sciencey name. Like this, take a look.
Is it floating?
That's what happens when you run a high voltage current through aluminum.
What exactly does floating aluminum have to do with time travel?
I don't know, but they're spending an awful lot of time on it, aren't they?
CERN is the main antagonistic force in the latter half of Steins Gate. Well, at least in the anime. Their goal is to create a dystopian by taking control of time travel, but they have yet to fully be able to achieve. And we know that because in the first few episodes of Steins Gate, it's implied that in the future, CERN learns how to fully create a working time machine, and that they're going to be a monopoly in the future. Before I delve deeper into CERN and their goals, let's briefly discuss how time travel works in Steins Gate, and the theories behind it. There are many videos on the internet that explain this concept, but I'll provide a quick explanation. Now, there are multiple ways to time travel in Steins Gate. The main theory that is used in Steins Gate is black hole theory. Remember that Steins Gate uses the concept of curved black holes and world lines. According to Google, the world line, or world line of an object, is the path that an object traces in a four-dimensional space. A world line, in the simplest terms, is a record of where and when something was during its existence in our universe. The black hole theory, just to make things easy, is a region of space where the gravitational force is so strong that nothing, not even light itself, can escape from it. It is created when a massive star collapses on itself and ends up creating a singularity, a point of infinite density at the center of a black hole. And when close enough to a black hole, it can actually slow down time. That is due to gravitational time dilation. A perfect example of this is from the movie Interstellar, where when they land on a planet that is close to a black hole, they show how every hour is 7 years on Earth. Now, there are 3 different ways you can time travel in Steins Gate, which already makes it stand out from the crowd of other time travel movies and shows. Firstly, let's talk about the D-Mail. D-Mail, also known as DeLorean Mail, sends a message back in time through the use of phone wave, which can stop events from happening, creating a different world line. For example, if somebody sent you a D-Mail that says don't go to the lab today, this can stop a key event from happening. And due to Okabe having a reading Snyder, he is aware of other world lines and changes. Secondly is the Time Leap Machine. Time Leap Machine is a device that compresses data from a person's brain and sends it back into time. But unlike D-Mails, you haven't changed world lines and your consciousness just went back into time, which is basically straight up time travel. But just because that happened, that doesn't mean that you could change past events. So past events that did happen will still end up happening. And that is something we could talk about later, as it is tied to the turning point of the story. And lastly is the time machine. Similar to other movies and shows, this is quite literally a time machine. And it's used by being able to go forward and backwards on one world line, but you cannot go into a different world line. So you can't really change any events that ended up happening. I feel like this one's pretty basic, so if you don't understand it or you need more explaining, there are tons of videos on the internet. Now let's get back to CERN and their motives. As I mentioned earlier, their goal is to create a dystopian by taking control of time travel. This is a huge threat to the safety of not only our characters in the show, but potentially the entire world. So how did CERN become a threat to our characters? That happens through the Echelon system, a top secret US spying network that intercepts and decodes electronic communications throughout the world. CERN detected the emails and discovered the existence of a fully operational time machine belonging to the future gadget lab. This was around the turning point of Steins, and where we get to see time travel be used in a unique way compared to other shows and movies where I feel like it can often be a crutch. From here on out, I want to move into a little bit more of a personal and deeper aspect of the show. This is when we come to Mayuri's death loop and Okabe's struggle. After Mayuri is killed by Mocha, Okabe uses the time leap machine to go back in time to save her. However, all of his attempts fail, and he literally tries hundreds and hundreds of times to no avail. This is the literal definition of insanity. We see how Okabe starts to become a shell of his former self. Even though we know that the mad scientist act is a facade he puts on for Mayuri, it becomes more than an act, and it literally becomes him. But during this part, the upbeat, fun Okabe we saw in the beginning loses what he wanted to protect the most. And through this, we see how much value he sees in his friends. It's gut-wrenching to see this man try over and over again just to have the same results. Through all this, we see the themes of Steins: friendship, love, and sacrifice. To dive deeper into these themes and explore how individual characters were affected by them and how time travel was used to create emotional connections, I want to continue this discussion in part 2. There is simply too many things to cover in one video, and I want to have a more personal experience instead of trying to explain everything in one part. In part 2, I'll discuss the mental effects on individual characters and how time travel is used as a force to create friendships, love, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please like and leave your thoughts on Steins and this video in the comments below. Thank you for watching.